Hey everybody, welcome back to another Out of the Park tutorial. So this video is going to cover something I've been asked about a lot recently, and that is different roster rules you need to know when you're taking over as GM of an MLB team. So today we're going to talk about the 40-man roster, we're going to talk about option years, we're going to talk about designate for assignment, which you might also see called DFA, and we're going to talk about waivers. As always, before we get into that, if you like these videos, do some things that'll help other people find them. Hit the like button, subscribe, and ring the notifications bell. Leave a comment in the description box. You can see how to join the Patreon page for this channel. You can see where to follow on Twitter. And I recently joined Twitch too. So you can see where to find that as well. So let's get into this. I'm going to go full screen per usual on Out of the Park to give you guys a better view of it. And we are here at the transactions overview page, you can see, and that's where a lot of what we're going to talk about, where you can find it. And I'm just in a random sim here in April with the Orioles. And here we have our 40-man roster. We're going to start by talking about what that is. So all players on your 26-man roster, which you see here, which is your active roster, these are the players on your major league team, all of them must be on your 40-man roster, which you might sometimes hear called the secondary roster. So you can think of the 40-man roster as the pool of players that are available to be on your 26-man roster. So if you sign a player, trade for a player, or acquire a player in any way that's on a major league roster, or I'm sorry, on a major league contract, that player has to be on your 40-man roster. Now, there is some nuance to that with waivers, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Let's just leave it simple at that, as simple as that to start, right? Any player on a major league contract in general needs to be on your 40-man roster. So option years is one thing we're going to talk about next. Let's look at Stevie Wilkerson. You can see Wilkerson, he is on Norfolk, right? So he's not on the active roster. He's on the 40-man roster, but he's in the minor leagues. He's in the pool of players available for the 26-man roster, but not one of the players there. If you go to Wilkerson's profile, you click contract, you can see he has something called 2 option years left. An option used this season, it says yes. So what the Orioles did here is at the beginning of the season, or at some point during this season, they did what we call optioning Wilkerson to AAA. They used an option year to send him down because he's on the 40-man roster, but not the 26-man roster. You have to option him to the minor leagues. And you can do that for 3 years. So you'll come here, you say, yes, it's used this season, 2 left. But Wilkerson can now go up or down as many times as you'd like this season. In real life MLB, there are time limits on how long somebody has to be down once you option them. Don't worry about that, though. It doesn't apply in Out of the Park in a standard game when you play it. So you can then send Wilkerson up and down as many times as you want this season, and it's not going to use another option because options are by years. So next season, if you do the same thing, it'll then say yes, and 1 option year left. So when you run into trouble is when somebody is on your 40-man roster, you don't want him on your 26-man roster, but he's out of minor league options. So let's say Wilkerson, they wanted him down in the minors, still on their 40-man, but not on the 26-man. He was out of options. He would have had to have been placed on waivers. And if he had cleared waivers, the Orioles then could have sent him down to the minor leagues. So that's the one little nuance to when can a player on a major league contract not be on the 26-man roster but is also out of option years. It's when you use waivers. So we're also going to talk about designating for assignment, which let's say the Orioles only have 35 players here on their 40-man, but a lot of times your 40-man is going to be full. So we're going to assume that their 40-man roster is full here. And if they needed to, say they then traded for a player who they need to add to their 40-man roster, but they don't have room, what they would need to do is DFA somebody on their 40-man. And again, that means designate for assignment. So let's just pretend that the Orioles have 40 guys here, right? It's instead of 35 out of 40, it's 40 out of 40. And they have signed a player or traded for a player who they need to add to their 40-man. And when you sign or trade for a player, they will appear under this players designated for assignment tab and you'll then have several days to be able to add them to the 40-man. So let's say we just wanted to DFA Jorge Lopez because he's out of option years, and we also need the spot on the 40-man. So if we do that, we go here to actions, and we go to transaction, and we would waive and designate the player for assignment. He's then going to be placed on waivers. He's then going to be taken off our 40-man because he's designated for assignment. And you can see now we have one fewer player on this 40-man roster, right? We've got 34 out of 40 instead of 35. He's down here. So then you would be able to add your new dude who would be down here to your 40-man, and he would take that spot that Lopez had. And then once he's on the 40-man, if he has options or if he's cleared waivers, you can put him in your minor leagues. But if not, you have to add him to your 26-man roster. So I hope that helps clear up some of that. I'm going to show you a couple other examples here. Let's go ahead and look at another player who's maybe not on the 40-man. We're going to look at Rylan Bannon. So Rylan Bannon is on a minor league contract, right? And I just wanted to reiterate the point that when you need to add a guy to your 26-man roster, he also needs to be on your 40-man roster. And so we've got Bannon pulled up here, and you can see he's on a minor league contract. He's not on the 40-man. He's not on the 26-man. We've currently got space on the 40-man for him. So if we want to call him up, if you just call somebody up, so you're like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and promote this guy to Baltimore. Cool. And he's there now. So he's there. You've got 26. But the thing you also need to be aware of is he then takes up a spot on your 40-man as well. It's not, unless you are out of room on your 40-man roster, it's not going to warn you that placing somebody on your active roster also puts them on your 40-man. I think the game just assumes you know that. But if you're planning out space on your 40-man, you need to be aware that when you promote somebody your 26-man, it is also adding them to your 40-man roster, right? So Bannon is now here. We're back up to 35 guys. We're 26 here, and we're good to go. So if you have any questions about this, this is just a real quick overview, and there is some nuance to these things. It takes some roster planning. It takes, like I've said in another video, sometimes pen and paper and a notebook to figure out the roster crunches you have. And guys, you need to, figure out who don't have option years, what you're going to do with them, how you're going to fit everybody in your 40-man roster. So there's often a lot of moving pieces with these different things. And again, I've just kind of skimmed over these topics and tried to give a quick beginner kind of, not beginner, but a quick overview of them for people who maybe don't know the rules that well. So please feel free to ask me questions in the comments, or if I also misspoke and didn't explain something correctly, let me know. Because honestly, sometimes there's differences between out of the park and major league roster rules with how some of this works. And sometimes it gets a little confusing to keep the two straight, but I think I've explained this right. But if not, I'm sure somebody will let me know. So let me know what questions you have in the comments about 26-man, 40-man option years, DFA, waivers, all that. Thanks always for watching. See you guys next time.